Good afternoon, everyone, and a warm welcome from sunny Edinburgh. Thanks, everybody, for joining. I hope you can all hear me okay. And thank you especially to Michelle from Barra. I think there are 8 of you, or 9 of you viewing, so that's great. And also to Michelle, I think is from, and Lucy, I think, from Greenwich University. So it's great to have schools and universities at different parts of the country. Okay. Thanks. So thumbs up, there's a little icon at the top. If you want to click on that, thumbs up to say that you can hear me, or just type in the box to say the sound's working okay, and we'll get started. Great. Okay, that's great. Right. Okay, so just to mention, there are some clickable links here that you can use. So some of these, actually these ones down at the bottom, are ones I used to have in the earlier version of MyStudyBar. They're no longer there, but if you wanted to use them, they're still available, so feel free just to click on the links. We'll come back to them at the end if you have any questions, and you can have a sort of maybe keep those links if you want, just to check. And they'll also be available in the recording, and the recording, the names are all anonymous as well, so you won't see your names. Okay, good sound, that's great, good. Right, and hello to everyone in Barra. I hope it's sunny there. It's amazingly sunny in Edinburgh today, lovely day, so great. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to move over to a presentation so we can see some stuff in MyStudyBar. Okay, Greenwich is sunny today. It's always sunny in London, so you're very lucky. Okay, so great. So I'm just going to share my screen and we'll get started. Okay. And I'll just okay, great, so here we are. Okay, so welcome to the webinar on MyStudyBar, and we're going to look at the latest version, which is 4.1. If you're wondering what MyStudyBar is, you haven't heard of it before, basically it's a suite of portable window applications that have been assembled into one package, and the main emphasis is to really support learners with dyslexia, literacy difficulties. I should mention it only works on Windows. It won't work on a Mac or an iPad. I often get asked, does it work on a Mac? Does it work on an iPad? No, it doesn't. But if you are looking for some Mac apps, then what to do is check out the portable apps. I'll show you this page here. It's the OS portable application. So if you have a Mac and you're looking to look at some apps, this is the one to go to, okay? And the link's back on the front page. But I've just noticed here it's actually saying that it's no longer supported. So certainly if anything goes wrong, you won't get any support from them. But if you do have a Mac and you're looking for some apps, portable apps, that's the place to go. And there's not a great of sort of support type apps either. If you're looking for some other kinds of portable apps, then portableapps.com is the one to go. Downloads, everything's free, and there's some of the MyStudyBar apps are from portableapps.com, but you also get a nice kind of interface there as well. So that's all free to download too. So first thing to say is the good thing about MyStudyBar is you don't need to install it. All the apps are portable. So that's quite a good thing, especially when lots of systems are locked down. So that's, I would say, and what I can show you later on is how you can just maybe, if you don't want the full suite of apps, you can just take some of the apps out and use them independently. It's a free download, and here's the link at the top here, but again, it's on the front page, and we'll go back to the front page. So it's colescotland.org.uk/MyStudyBar, and that's it there. And you can see there's a download link and some information about MyStudyBar, and of course there's Jackie Stewart, who has given us a bit of support, although I doubt he's ever used it. And there's the link to the Apple Macs suites I was talking about. Some information about how to install it and some of the features here as well. We'll be going through some of them, not all of them, just don't have time to go through all of them. And here's all the tutorials as well. So if you needing any support we're just a phone call or an email away, but also there's lots of support here in the form of YouTube videos and a Word format. So for every tutorial, there's either a Word document that you can go through or a YouTube. And I'm afraid it's my droning voice you have to listen to on the tutorials, but all that information is there. One of the things I won't be talking about today is Balabolka, and this is Balabolka here. And the reason why is my colleague, if I could just find it, Alan, did a Balabolka webinar about a month ago or so. And so if you go to the archive site, it's called Scotland Professional Learning Webinars. Just on the right hand side, we have all the archived webinars. So this is where this one will appear in a few days' time. And here it is here, Balabolka text-to-speech. So it's a brilliant text-to-speech program. So if you want to find out more about Balabolka and text-to-speech, check out Alan's webinar and you'll find more information about that as well. Okay, so I think one of the things to look at is I'll just show you my desktop. When you download MyStudyBar, the chances are it'll appear like this in a sort of a zipped download folder. And if you want to unzip, I suppose, it's just a right click and then you can say extract all, and that will extract all the folders, okay? And then when you've done that, it should look something like this, okay? So these are the kind of files and folders that are in MyStudyBar, and you could copy that across to maybe a shared drive, or you could copy it across to your portable drive, a USB drive. It's very flexible in how you can use it. Now, I mentioned earlier on, one of the things you can do, if you go into Programs, double click into Programs, you can see here, this is where all the sort of apps are. So let's say you just wanted, after today, you thought, oh, I don't want the rest of it, I just want ATBar. Well, then you would just, I guess, I'm not going to do it just now because it will ruin my presentation, but I could just say copy. I'm just going to copy. I'll copy it onto the desktop, paste, and there it's in there, and then I could just click that to get it started. So that's just drag out those apps onto the desktop wherever you want them, and then you can use them independently, okay? So to get started, the one that you want to click to get started is MyStudyBar X's. So if we click on that, let's bring that up. And it should look something like this. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different sections to MyStudyBar. And the idea is that it takes the learner from the planning phase through to reading, writing, some speech recognition, support with vision, and there's a whole lot of stuff in the extras one as well. So this will take you to the dyslexia section of the COL website, lots of good information there, and to the Scottish Voices Word Talk, which is free to everyone to download, and just some bits and pieces that you can do in the on your desktop as well. Okay, so lots of extras in there. Okay, so one of the things, a disadvantage about MyStudyBar is there isn't a minimize bar, so that's a bit of a pain, and it doesn't dock either. So it'd be great if you could just dock and it stayed there. So if it gets a bit too intrusive, you just have to maybe move it out the side or to the side. So that's a bit of a pain, but maybe in the next development we might hopefully get that going. Okay. So let's look at some of the apps. I'll look at, first of all, the planning section and hopefully give you some hints and tips if you haven't used any of these apps before. So when you click on, there's a little sort of drop-down menu. And the first one I'm going to do is we're going to look at Xmind, and then I'm going to look at the guide. Okay, so Xmind is basically a mind mapping program. It's been on MyStudyBar for a long time now, and I'm very reluctant to upgrade it because this is, you know, as it is, it's a really good program. And the newer version is slightly more complicated and you have to subscribe. Anyway, this one's free. And I should mention that all the apps, I've had permission from everyone to use them and distribute them. So there's no problem about you using them in school or universities or college, because these are all free to use. So you've probably seen something like this. This is a sort of mind mapping program. And if I right click, you see there's options to say topic, or I can say enter or tab, the shortcut keys as well. So we could just go in there and we could maybe press the tab key, and we can collect all our topics and that sort of thing. And then you can even add subtopics to those ones as well. And you can see a sort of linear on the right hand side. Up on the menu bar here, there's lots of options for adding images, links, notes, that type of thing. But I'm going to show you one in true Blue Peter style that I did earlier. And this is okay, so here's one that I did earlier, and you can see it's very colourful, it's very flexible, you can move all these things about, it's easy to colour coordinate them. This is the properties box just down here on the right hand side, so you can colour coordinate each of them. You can add images. It comes also with these little icons as well, so you can make it quite colourful. So it's great, and you can change the background colour as well. So it's really, really good. I mean, I would say it's just as good as some of the paid ones that you get. You can also add hyperlinks. So if I click on a hyperlink, hopefully that should just bring it into the side of the browser. So if you're wanting to do a bit of research, maybe take some text from something, then you can do that and pop it into the mind map as well. It's also got a notes, so there's an option for writing in notes. So you add in notes, and you can just, sort of maybe just pad out some of your ideas that you've got. So there you go. That's Xmind for you. Now, one of the shortcomings of this free version is that a lot of the paid for versions is that you can export it. So you can maybe export it into Word. So the idea is that pupils or students, you often hear them say, I know what I want to say, but I can't get it down on paper. Well, that kind of visual mind mapping is a great way to do that you can get your thoughts and your ideas down on paper. So once you've done your planning, you might want to export that into Word or PowerPoint. Now this one doesn't do that, but I'm going to show you a way around it. So let's say we've got our mind map and we're going to export it because we want to carry on our planning, we want to extend our ideas and our work. So we could save it, and we would just save it as an Xmind file, which I've done earlier on, or we could export it. So if I click on to export, okay, now this is in one of the video tutorials, so if you miss it, just go back to the video tutorials and you can find it. So you can see there isn't an option there for, it's just an image or HTML, so that's not very, very good. But I'm going to click on HTML for this one, and I'm going to say next. So I've clicked on HTML, and I'm going to say next. And now I can say, well, how do I want my mind map to appear? Well, I actually want it with an overview picture, and I want all these contents because I want to see what that's there, okay? And I'm going to browse, and I'm going to stick it to my desktop. Okay, so I'm going to stick it to my desktop and say save, okay? And now you can see it's located a place to my desktop, and it's given it a name, What is Dyslexia? And it's saving it as the file HTML. But all we need to do now is just backspace, get rid of that HTML, and type in doc, or which is short for Word document. So now we're going to export it to a Word document. So if I say finish, I'll say yes, okay, off it goes. And hopefully, okay, there we go. Okay, so there's my Word document. You might just have to see that's just gone off the page a bit, but now I've got my Word document, and if I scroll down, you can see I've got all the information there. There's the links that were there as well. I've got it nicely organized, and it should also have the notes somewhere. Yeah, there's the notes that we had in as well. So now we've got a good start to our essay writing. So any pupils or anybody who really struggles with that basic, that's a good way of getting started. Okay, so that's Xmind. Okay, so I'll close that down, and I won't save that. That's for something else soon. Okay, so let's bring MyStudyBar back up. The next one I'm going to look at probably be more useful for pupils maybe 5th year, 6th year, further education, higher education. This one, and this is called the guide. So whereas Xmind is a sort of visual approach, the guide is really a more of a word structured kind of idea. So let's move this out. So when it first opens, you think, blimey, what on earth do I do with that? There's not a lot to guide you, but you can see it says right click on the left pane and add page to start editing. So I right click, and I'm going to add a top level page. So that could maybe be, let's see, sociology. Okay, that's fine. And I'm going to type in some notes in here. Sociology is about groups in society, or something like that. I then want to add maybe a child page. This works exactly the same way as Xmind, that visual way where you're adding nodes and subnodes, that sort of thing. So this could be maybe theories of sociology, theories of sociology, and then in there we could put in, say, feminism, Marxism, interactionism. Sorry about the spelling mistakes, folks. Interactionism. Okay, so for an idea, and it builds up. But again, I've got one that I've prepared for you. Okay, so this is more of an extended one. So here's one I've saved. I'll say no to that. Okay, so now you get a good idea as I click down that information. So you're just getting kind of bullet points down for your ideas. So another way of planning, just getting short ideas, bullet points. But the great thing about the plan is now, once you've got those ideas down, if we go to File and Export, okay, I'm going to export this as a Word document. Well, it saves it as an RTF file. I'll say Save to my desktop, and I'll say Yes. And we'll close this down now. I don't see that anymore. And here's the RTF that I saved it as. So now, in my Word document, here we go. And look how nicely it does it. It's used proper heading styles. You've got your there's bullet points in there, subtopics. So it's a great way to get started. So Xmind is a very visual way of planning, and the guide is a very sort of text-oriented way of getting ideas down. So either or, you can use them. Okay, so far so good. So let's bring up MyStudyBar. Here it is again, and let's look at some of the apps in the reading page. So I'm going to bring up, let's see, a Word document. No, I'm not. I'm going to bring up a web page. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring up a web page, if I can find one down here. And here we go. And let's see. You've got one. Okay, so here's an example of one of a web page. And what I'm going to do first of all, into reading, I'm going to use what's called TBar. So if I click on TBar, and what TBar does, it just puts a sort of an overlay over the text. So let's go flick through them, and you can see the different sort of how it looks on these pages. So if a pupil struggles with that white background on black text, then you can just add an overlay. If I right click onto TBar, and you can see controls, if you go into controls now, what you can do is you can adjust it. So if that saturation is too much, you can make it very saturated, or you can make it slightly lighter. And the same thing, I've got a sort of PDF here as well. Let's bring up the PDF, because it's certainly more, you can see that's much more sort of orientated with where you've got the dark background there. So now let's say done, and you can change the color. Let's go back into controls. Let's say we want a purple or a rose color, and again you can just suit that to make, you know, for students' preferences. And if I right click again and say lock, then that's going to follow the mouse around as well. Or you could just use the page to go up and down to read. So a nice little tool for masking. What's really nice about it though, if I right click again and go into controls, this time I want the background to be black, and I want that saturated a bit, make it a bit thicker, darker. In line options, I want to change this from one line. Okay, so now you can see what I've got. I've made this maybe blue or white or whatever. So now I can say done, and now I can darken the outsides and just focus on the line that I want to read. And again, we can just say lock, move that around or up, or we can move the page. Or we could go into controls again, or we could even change the width of the bar as well. So you can change the width of the bar and of the height. So you can do those things again. So great tool, TBar. You can use that on internet pages, PDFs, Word, wherever. Okay, so I'll just exit from there. Another one which is really popular as well is this one here. It's just a reading bar really that goes over the text. So you can see I can just place that over the text, and we see right click, and we can maybe change the width of it. Let's go width. It's 100%. So you can make it, and also you can say height. So if you may be wanting 2 lines of text in, you can do that as well, and just play about with it until. So I'm just right clicking, and you can change the color as well. So yeah, lots of good useful tools in Exit. Okay, the other one in reading, it's a great tool actually I've added, and this is called ATBar, and thanks to the folks down in Southampton University for this. It's a great free reader. So let's bring up ATBar. And one of the things it has, you can see straight away, is it has a color filter. So it has lots of color filters, but I'm just going to switch that off for just now. And the way that ATBar works, well, it's a text reader. So by, let's see, grabbing some text, highlighting some text, and you have to copy it to the clipboard. So on this one, I'm going to press Control and C on my keyboard. So Control and C to copy. And now if I press play.
What a lot of hairy-faced men are around nowadays. When a man grows hair all over his face, it is impossible to tell what he really looks like.
Okay, so we can do that. We can maybe get another bit of text and do the same thing.
What a lot of hairy-faced men are around nowadays. When a man grows hair all over his face, it is impossible to tell what he really looks like.
Okay, so notice it's actually just repeated what was read last time, and that's a problem with a lot of text readers on PDFs, is that the kind of information is stored in the clipboard. So this is a good thing about ATBar, is that you can just clear that, and then if we play that again, so let's just clear that text and just clear the text again, and Control and C to copy, and
perhaps that's why he does it. He'd rather you didn't know. Then there's the problem of washing.
Okay, so that's where it's just reading straight from the document, but it has this other nice feature in here. If we just go into settings, and what we can now do is have a display window, and you can set all the different colors, that sort of thing. You can, again, if you've got the Scottish voices or other voices, you can choose a voice. If the pupil's maybe understanding the text needs to be slowed down, you can slow the voice down so it's a bit slower. So I'm going to this time do the same thing. I'm going to have the display window. I want the font to be black, the background to be yellow, and the highlighting text. So if a pupil maybe has a visual tracking difficulty, you can have the highlighting text, and I want each word to be highlighted. So I'll say save this time. And now when we play that.
Perhaps that's why he does it. He'd rather you didn't know. Then there's the problem of washing.
Okay, so
perhaps that's why.
Let's get rid of that. Let's get another bit of text in there, and just Control and C, and then play that.
When the very hairy ones wash their faces, it must be as big a job as when you and.
Okay, so that's the text-to-speech, really nice feature. And as I say, in settings, you've got the color, so you can select color overlays. It was red or yellow, so just say OK to that. OK, and now we close that down, cancel. We switch on the overlay, you can have an overlay on the back as well. So lots of options in which you can have that. So I'm just going to take off the window reading just now. The other thing, you've got this thing here, okay, it's brilliant actually. It's called, it's if anyone struggles reading maths equations. So I'm just going to close this down here, and I'll close this one down as well. So this is if you struggle to read maths equations. I'm going to click onto that to bring it up. It's called a STEM reader, so anything relevant to STEM. You need an internet connection to do it as well. So let's look at some examples. So if you have an example, there's some quite complicated. Let's just try that, and let's just play it so we can hear it, we can see it. Now we can have it read back to us.
Plus 5 over, open bracket, x plus 3, close bracket, open bracket, x minus 1, close bracket, equals 1 over x plus 3 plus 2 over x minus 1.
Okay, so that's just reading out the kind of quite, the algebra that's here. It's quite quite difficult for some pupils to read that. But the nice thing about it, and if you notice earlier I had a Word document up. Let's say you did that in Word. Okay, so I've got in Word, and I want that read out for me. Most text readers are unable to do it because it is quite complicated. So let's just say copy, and I'm going to go back to the STEM reader. Here it is here. I'm going to click on the main bits. I'm just clicking on this bit here, and I'm going to paste that text in there. So just Control and V in there and submit. And so now let's have that.
F of x equals a subscript 0 plus sum from n equals 1 to infinity sum of open brackets a subscript n cos of n pi x over capital L plus b subscript n.
Okay, I think you get the idea as well. So anyone needing to help support with, let's say, reading out those kinds of heavy equations, then I would certainly recommend that. Okay, right, so let's get back to the desktop again. Okay, the other thing that's really useful under writing, here's the Balabolka. I mentioned Alan's done that, and there's also a touch typing program. So obviously there's touch typing programs about, such as, let me see, there's Doorway Online, this sort of thing, but this one's also a very good one. It's quite flexible. And let's go to Introduction, and you can see you can type in your own text. It's got the hands there, so let's just type in the space kelpies. Okay, so just a nice touch typing program. As I say, you can add your own text, you can change the background color and change the layout and do all these sorts of things. Okay, I've noticed I'm kind of running out of time. So just to say that voice really is just using the built-in Windows speech recognition. I can't demonstrate it just now because I'm using the mic to talk just now, but that uses it's quite good for getting short phrases down. If you haven't used voice recognition before, it might be one worth trying to see if it's going to work. And the other one is Vision, and this is a great tool actually. It's called System Font Size Changer. I can't demonstrate this because you have to log out and log back in again to make the changes, but I wrote a blog article about it, and this is it here. This is it here, and you hopefully can get an idea of how it works. So here's the word bar, for example, before, and here it is afterwards, after you've used System Font Size Changer. There it is before and after. So it's a great way of increasing menus, fonts, all those sorts of things for anybody who has a visual difficulty. And the web page is just here as well. Okay, so there. And again, it's in the front. So I'm just going to return back to the page. And right, here we are back again. Yeah, so does anyone have any questions about that? If so, please pop them into the box below. Any questions? I can see there already are some questions. Shirley's been answering them. Thanks, Shirley, that's great. Yeah, interesting choice of text here. Faces. I think that's from the twits, actually, isn't it? That one here. Can you copy the whole page? I've never tried that, but I suppose you probably could, actually. You probably could copy the whole page at a time. I know I use it for proofreading a lot when I'm doing anything. It's great for that. And so here's if you just want to use ATBar, it can also use as a web browser, so you can use it as a web browser to read information on text or change background colors. There's a link for Font Size Changer. And Lingos, that's a sort of talking multi-language dictionary which you can run from a USB pen drive. TinySpell is a spell checker again, and NVDA is a screen reading program. So these used to be in the earlier version of MyStudyBar, but I've taken them out now as well. Do they both? Yeah, they work in Office 365 and Desktop Word. That's not a problem. Yeah, so wherever there's text, really, you can use the ATBar or the text-to-speech, all those things. Why have I taken the other apps off? Well, I kind of felt it was a bit bloated, really. yeah, I thought NVDA was a bit kind of difficult for people because it's a screen reader app, and the portable spell checking one hadn't been updated for a while, but it has now. But I think I should really put the multilinguals back in, actually. I think that was a good one. When would you use these instead of paid AT software? Well, that's a good question. And the reason why I developed MyStudyBar was because I was kind of getting a bit fed up of certain companies who did something similar and were charging a fortune. So I really wanted to provide an alternative. But initially, I was thinking of students who maybe are at college or university who maybe are entitled to a DSA, a Disabled Students Allowance, and maybe they have to wait for a while to get their equipment. So this would maybe act as a fill-in until they got. But you know, I think you could use this anytime. You can have it in your pocket, go from computer to computer, use what you want. You know what? I'm not sure, but yeah. I mean, some of the obviously the thing about these paid products is that they're updated more regularly. There's lots of support, so yeah. So Lucy, you actually suggest that for international students you can't get a DSAs. Yeah, so something like that would be great. You know, students maybe have English as an additional language might be good for that too. So good. There is one other thing I'd like to show you. Hopefully I've got it on my laptop. I just need to share my screen. I've taken it off because it stopped working, but now it works again. So I'm quite keen to put it on, and it's called Sonar. And I'll just quickly show you before we finish, okay, because I know we're a bit out of time. But if I just go back into share my screen again and share, and we'll take this off. And here it is here, Sonar. Let's close this down. So I'll just pop it there. So if I click on Sonar, and let's do Sonar XE. So this is a sort of a, you get this message, but just ignore that. So let's go to, let's see, it's like a tracking device really. So let's bring up. So if you're needing, there you go, it just helps you to sort of track the mouse as you're going around. And just at the bottom on the system tray, if I right click on settings, you can change it to a rectangle, you can make it thicker, that sort of thing. So you make it quite thick, you can change the colour to however you want it and say OK. And then when you stop using it, like a lot of the programs on MyStudyBar default down to the system tray. So if you want to close something down, you normally have to go to the system tray, right click and say exit. So if you want that, drop me an email, okay, and I'll set it up somewhere so that it's available for you to get, okay. So can MyStudyBar be used off Google Drive? I don't know actually. To be sure, I don't know. Sorry, Sharpener, I can't answer that one. I've never tried it. I suppose, you know, if you wanted to use things like for Google Docs, for example, it should read the text in Google Docs, or you could use the, you know, the ATBar or the masking tools. I think. Try it out, yeah, please do. Well, folks, just to say that this will be available as a recording if you want to have a look at it again, or tell your friends about it, and just say thanks to everyone. We've got 34 participants and 10 in Barra watching, so that's fantastic. So thanks very much. Okay, thanks Lucy, thanks, I'm glad it was helpful. And as I say, download it and get in touch if you want Sonar. And thanks everyone. Okay, enjoy the rest of the lovely evening. Okay, thanks then. See you folks. Bye.